In this series of videos, we're building a beginner's model railroad on IKEA tables using pre-cut plywood and pillars available as a kit. Track system of your choice. The result is a model railroad with 2 stations, a harbor with connection to a ferry boat. The layout also features a switching yard, which handles the freight car coming from the 2 industries on the layout.
Hello and welcome to another episode in this series of videos where we're building a kind of beginner's layout from ground up. And like in the previous episode, there's been quite a few questions regarding materials and methods used to build this layout, and especially the cardboard panels, which makes some of the structure but also some of the subsurfaces. Yeah, please, I've said it before but I'll say it again, that my focus on this is to, it should be easy and fun for like a family in an apartment somewhere. You don't have to go outside on the balcony to make the sawing of the plywood or such things. The kids can cut the cardboard and have the creative process going there. And I don't really see for myself that a layout like this stands more than like 5 years. Then either the kids have grown up or if this is your first layout and you're building it on your own, you might want to move on to a more advanced layout maybe later. So, that's the design goal. So the materials might be more expensive and more ready-made in this series than what you're used to see in the other videos I'm doing here. In this episode, we're going to work on the structures, the houses, what kind of different houses there are to put on a layout like this, and also we will assemble lights into these. What tools you need to connect the cables and how to set it up to be both safe but also well working. And we're gonna also lay out the roads. So the road surfaces will be made and painted and weathered. So here goes.
Since I changed the backdrop, I've selected a few houses which I will build for this layout. They are both like this first one, a plastic kit. This station I found, Amtzell, is laser cut in cardboard. This is also a plastic kit, and the warehouse for the harbor is also a laser cut. This one from Noch. I also selected a few smaller laser cuts, which I will put in the forest outside town. I will show you what a laser cut kit with pre-painted parts looks like when you're assembling it. We will not build the entire kit in this tutorial because I think building kits in tutorials is kind of boring, but I will anyway give you a flavor for what's included in a kit like this and how the process of assembling the kits are. As you see, there are a lot of different parts, and there's also glue included. I would say typical for laser cut kits is that they have a base structure which you assemble first, and onto that structure you then assemble the visible parts such as roof and walls. There are also, of course, windows included, and in this kit from Noch they also provide color prints of curtains and some flower pots in the windows. So the transparent plastic is glued inside this structure cardboard pieces, and the curtains with some decos are glued inside the windows. So that's basically the process. Only trick here at this stage is to avoid getting any glue out on the window pane. So this is what it looks like when glued in place. The door handles are assembled. It's copper thread and folded in place on the back side. Then we're ready to start assembly of this base structure. So putting glue onto the pieces and fit the pieces to each other onto that base plate. It's that gray piece of cardboard in the bottom. Now the house is taking shape. It's actually a very nice building which will fit my layout excellent up front there on the right side. With the structure in place, we can now start assembling the concrete facade pieces to that base structure. And then we fit the roof, the sub-roof pieces, and on top of that we will then glue the tiled roof. And what you see here is that these parts are painted not just once but twice, and also been weathered. So these kits from Noch are really premium laser kits that way. Otherwise you typically need an airbrush to achieve a result this good. So okay, so here comes the roof. It's a kind of tiled roof to which we glue the windows there. And also fit the door, which is on hinges, so it's possible to open and close. And in a house as good looking as this one, you definitely should fit illumination. To fit illumination, you need a few items. That is, of course, cables. For general use in my model railroad, I typically use cables with a cross-sectional area of 0.22 square millimeters, which corresponds to 24 AVG, which is the standard in the United States. I use red cable for positive pole and black for negative. We need a cable stripper to remove the isolation from the cables. You can do it with your hands, but then you most often damage both the copper wires and also the isolation gets all messed up. This stripper I'm using is from a German manufacturer called Weicon, and I really like this one. The thing with the cable stripper is that it has a special blade built in which never damages the copper wires but efficiently removes the cable isolation. Therefore, cable stripper is a big time saver, but it also increases the reliability of the electrical connections of your layout. These strippers can be found on any DIY store, but I'm also putting up a link directly to Weicon webshop where you can buy this tool. For the electrical connection, you also need connector blocks. These can also be found on your DIY store. We also need a power supply. Easiest way is to buy one which you plug directly into the outlet. The output voltage should be 12 volt DC. This one says 8 watt, which is a little bit less than 1 amp, which is more than enough for a small layout like this. Cut away the plug and strip the cables. I'm setting the stripper length to 10 millimeters and de-isolating the cable ends. Twist the copper wire back into the shape they had before de-isolation. Take the connector block and divide it into a piece of 2. This cable has white striped markings. That means that it's the positive pole. So we're inserting both of these into the connector block, and the connector block will be assembled to the same plate as we're assembling all of the digital decoders. And you see here I also write down what we have in this connector block: plus, minus, and 12 volt DC for illumination. The preferred light source lamps used today in model railroads is LEDs, and the best way to purchase them is on a flexible circuit board like this with some components already installed. Thereby you can directly connect them to 12 volt DC. Another advantage with these flexible circuits with LEDs is that they have an adhesive backing, so they're really easy to put into the place where you want them. See here, I'm soldering the cables to this flex board. If you don't have a soldering iron, I recommend you getting a soldering iron in the 25 watt range, because that's a good power for this type of soldering. So now let's remove this cover and just push that in place into the building like this. And that's all there is to it. Now the only thing you need to do is to route the cables through the hole, and then route them through the hole in the tabletop, and put your building back in place. Now disconnect any power you may have connected already before you connect these wires to the connector block. And I just fix them like this. Arrange the cables along the edge of that mounting plate, and secure them with a piece of masking tape. Additional cables are just routed on top of these and secured with their own tapes. Well, this looks really nice. Okay, so that is how the LEDs can give you light into the buildings and structures. But let's go back a few steps and have a look at how to fit buildings to, like this is a loading dock which should have the same height preferably as the floor in the freight car. And same here, there is a height difference which needs to be filled out. Plus its fit here is not very good. So what I do typically here is I add additional layers of cardboard to get to that height I'm looking for. So first one layer, glue it in place using a PVA glue, and fixing pins holds it in place until the glue has cured. Now let's make another try and see. Now the fit is much better. Same thing is needed here, because on this there will be a road going over here, and on this side we also need to elevate the area close to the tracks in order to have a railway crossing here. So I'm gluing a piece of cardboard also in this position, fix it with pins, and then I can glue the tunnel in place. Let's do the same thing up in the switching yard and also down in the harbor. So I'm layering cardboard here because in the harbor I'm thinking to have concrete or asphalt over the entire surface, and 2 layers give you the perfect match. I then seal the edges of the cardboard using this latex rubber compound. This is mainly to avoid if any glue or water, which we will use in the top layer here, to enter the sides of the cardboard, because that will make the cardboard expand. Now you see that the surface of the cardboard is not ideal to build a road surface on. So what I do, I typically use a cornflakes package or cereal package for road surfaces and asphalt surfaces. What you do, you just draw the piece you want on the rear side of the cornflakes package or cereal package, and then check the size so it looks, it seems to fit. Then I use this structure paint. It's asphalt gray structural paint, and I think this is maybe a bit too bluish when it's a gray color, but it's a bit bluish. I want it to be a bit warmer in the tone, so I add also a few drops of burnt umber before I start to putting it onto the road surface. So just mix it together a bit like this. Then you can tweak this gray color to whatever color which matches the environments you're building for your layout. So I'm applying it with a roller brush here, which gives it a bit of extra texture. I typically add 3 layers of this paint, leave it to dry like 20 minutes in between the layers before the cereal package side is fully covered. Leave it to dry additionally like 1 hour, then it's time to weather it with pastels. For this I'm using 2 packages of pastels. One is black to white, it's mainly gray, that is, and then I have another package with earth tones, and from this first package I'm using a light gray color, and for application I'm using a makeup sponge. You can find these in big packs on shops like Forever 21 or Hennes & Mauritz for a cheap amount of money, so that's a very, very good tool. So I just dip it into the light gray pastel chalk powder. See here, it's almost white, and I just smear it out along the roads where cars have been running. For the edges I use a makeup applicator. This is also found in makeup stores. This is an eye color applicant. It's basically a sponge in the end of a stick, so I'm dipping that into a kind of burnt umber brown tone, so kind of dark brown. Can look a bit worrying to start with here, but as you swipe this applicator several times and move for every move closer to the center of the road, it will fade out very beautifully. It's almost like if you have had an airbrush. So this looks very nice and very easy. 2 kinds of powder, 2 kinds of applicators, and a piece of cereal packages. I don't think it can be much easier than this. And I'm fixing this road using the same type PVA glue to my cardboard surface, or subsurface we can say. So cereal packages is a very good base material to make roads. If you want to make cracks and more advanced road structures, I would advise you to use thin styrofoam. This type of styrofoam I've used previously in earlier videos. It's underlay for floors and can be bought on the DIY store. This is from a manufacturer called Scandor, and it's just 2.2 millimeter thick, so really thin. The process of making roads with this material is very close to the one with the cereal packages. Only thing that differs a bit is that this material has a very glossy surface, which in some cases prevents the paint to stick to it. You see here it reflects the light. So what we need to do before painting it is to sand it. And for this I use 400 grit sanding paper with block. And I'm just sanding away from the point where I'm holding this piece of styrofoam, otherwise it will break. So to make some cracks, I'm just using a scalpel, engraving small patterns like cracks in the road surface here. You can also make some cutouts in the edges. To enhance these, I will make a wash from black and burnt umber. So I'm mixing that with 3 parts brown and 1 part black with a lot of water, like this. This water also have a portion of isopropanol in it. And application is made with a very thin paintbrush. So I would say, drop the paint from the paintbrush into the cracks I've created with my scalpel, and also in this cutout here. Looks a bit worrying at this point, but it will enhance in a few seconds when we're putting on this gray, this same type structural gray paint as we used for in the cardboard, serial package cardboard road surface. So same here, I'm adding 3 layers of the structural paint and leave it to dry in between layers. And then it's just to glue this piece in place on top of our cardboard substructure. Also cut strips from the same material to fill between the rails, and I glue it in place using the same type of PVA glue. I cut these strips to a width of 13 millimeters, which equals to a ½ inch, and then try a car so it works without touching it. We will also weather these surfaces in the same way as we weathered the serial packages surfaces, so meaning light gray color in the center of the road where the cars have run, or the trucks or whatever, and then the edges with brown, dark brown, which is smeared out using that eye color applicator like this. Alright, now there is just one thing remaining here, and that is to add some gravel on the edges, on the outside edges of the roads. For this I'm using chinchilla sand. This sand can be bought cheaply in big packs in your zoo store. I typically color it by shaking it with the tiles grout. The tiles grout I've selected has the color of dark gray with a portion of brown to it, and then you get this color from your chinchilla sand. Then apply glue along the edges of the road. We do not want to use too much water since the substructure is made from cardboard. If you see that you need more than one layer, then repeat the process. Now this is what it looks like when done.
Alright, so now we have all of those pieces in place. If you have any questions on the materials or methods used in this video, please post them in the comment field below this video, and I'll try to respond to them as soon as possible. Did you know that this channel is totally dependent on support from viewers like you? So if you want to be one of the good guys, get over to Patreon. Set up a support account there from like $1 per month, or make a one-off donation using the PayPal dialog found in the video description below. And don't forget to subscribe and enable that little bell so you will get a notification once next video gets published. Until that happens, see you.